Hi everyone, so in the last video as we completed the init endpoint, so now we will be starting with the search part. So for the first endpoint we are going to create the transactions endpoint, which will be used to display the table that we saw in the assignment. So we can just check it out again. So here we can see in the backend task we have this requirement to create an API that can list all the transactions, and we want pagination here, and in the design it will be displayed inside a table with a search field and a select month drop down and the table and the pagination controls as well. So let's start with it. First up we are going to set the endpoint. So I'll just start with app.get and slash transactions, and here we'll get a request and response, and this will be our method. Okay, so this seems fine, and now what we have to do here is we will be taking an offset here, const offset, and we will also have a const limit here. I'll just assign value to these in a moment, and before that what I'll do is for now I'll give it a constant value. The offset I'm saying is 1 and the limit is 10. So the offset is this thing, page number, and the limit is per page how many elements or how many rows of data do we want to show. The offset is 1. So by default initially I think I should give it as 0, and as we have seen here we want these as our query params, so I'll just do it in a minute. Right now I have a constant value. So let's start. So what we want here is we also want this query, so I'll just pick this up. Const query is equal to, so a better name would be search query, and that is equal to the some sort of a query. So I think this is a good time to take out these values. So request dot query dot queue, and here what I will do is request dot query dot limit and request dot query dot offset. So this request dot query contains whatever we are passing here. So this value will be in request dot offset 1, and then this will be in the limit, and this will be in the query. So now since we have these values, what I will do is there was one important point when we were discussing the requirements in the very first video. So common for all endpoint is month, that is from the field date of sale. So this drop down select month will be common for all the endpoints. That is the requirement here. Let's just add that month also. So month also we will be taking right here. So it will be something like, and month is equal to January will be 1. So we are going to take the numerical format 1 to 12, and here I'll create the query. So first up what I'll do is I will just take out that month, and that I will say request dot query dot month. And there was also a requirement that by default if month is not given, the month should be equal to 3 for March, I guess. Yes, so it will be March. I'll just give it a default value. So like this you can give a default value. So if this thing is not present, it will take the value that is on the right side of this OR operator. Now what we want to do is we want to calculate how many documents we want to skip inside MongoDB. So for that what we are doing is I'll just draw it up. So here if I say that inside our Mongo we have, let's say, 1 and 2 and like many records inside here. If someone gives us let's say page is 1 or offset or page, we are taking offset in our code. So offset is equal to 1 and the limit is equal to 10. So that means on page 1 I want to give 10 elements. So this will be so how many elements do we have to skip from the starting here? That will be 0. So since this is the first page, I want to start from here, and the next 10 elements I want to show here. Now when the next request comes in that says page or offset is equal to 2 and limit is equal to 10. So since on page 1 we have given the first 10 elements, now this time we want to skip those 10 and pick the next 10 elements, next 10. So for this we have to calculate a value of how many documents we want to so this will be our skip variable, so that will be equal to if we want to derive this formula will be offset minus 1 into the limit. So how that will work is, if offset currently is 2, 2 minus 1 will be 1, and then into 10, so this will be 10. So skip first 10 elements. So we can take one more example when page or offset will be equal to 3. So in that case it will be 3 minus 1 into 10, which will be 2 into 10, that is 20. So skip the first 20 elements. So this is what we want for pagination, and what I'll do here is I'll create a variable called skip, and that will be offset minus 1 into limit. Now what we want here is const query. So we want to create a query now that will be executed in Mongo, and we will get some data. So here I'll first start with the month filter. So month filter is a bit tricky, since if we see here in date of sale, so I'll just zoom it in. So this date of sale is of type date, of course, as you can see here. It's in UTC format, and now we want to apply some sort of a filter on that date. So how we can do it in MongoDB is, I'll have to run an expression, and the expression you can give here like equal to, and then the expression itself in the array. So what I want here is that month of which field, so the field will be this one, date of sale should be equal to the month. So this month we are getting here from the query param, and I guess this should work fine. So this syntax is quite simple, that we want to run an expression where month in the date of sale, which is of type date, is equal to the month that we get in the request. This will be the start of our query, and if I'll do a search query is not, so I'll do here search query is not equal to empty string, then in this case what we want to do is we want to set query, and inside the query we want to set or is equal to the search query. So the reason we are doing an or here is if it doesn't matches what we search for, so in that case what we want is we want to show some result at least, rather than not showing any result. So here inside or I'll give it an array, and inside that array what I'll do here is I am going to use something called as MongoDB feature full text search. I'll just search it up, and this is the MongoDB full text search support. So what it gives is it gives the ability to search on a text. Mainly full text search means that if let's say you have this data, and inside this data you have this description regarding your perfect pack for everyday use and work, something like this. And what if we want to search in this collection for documents where inside description we have this word forest. So if you have a requirement like that, MongoDB provides full text search, also provides fuzzy search. So if the spelling of forest is like wrong by 1 and something like that, so that also MongoDB can handle very well. So in order to use this feature of MongoDB, that is full text search, you have to create a new index. So you have to create a text index on the fields that you want to search. So mainly in our case, I think there are a few fields that we would like to do a full text search on. So description is one very obvious one. So here I'll say description, and then in the type I'll say text. Then I'll add another one, and I guess title is one of those fields that you would want. And I guess there were some requirements that on which field do you want a full text search. So title, description, and price, maybe that is also a field where you would want a full text search. So I've created this index on description, title, and text, and this price. So now we can do full text search easily. So the syntax for full text search here is, inside this query I'm going to define that we want to do a text search here, and what we want to do a text search is we want to do text $text, and what we want to do on the text is a search. So inside search I can give my search query, so that will be equal to search query. So this is the syntax, and next up what we want to do is we want to run this query. So in order to run this query, you will have to do something like await and transactions dot find, and inside that I'll give query limit. So limit will be limit that we are taking in the query parameter, and then we want to skip some documents before based on the pagination. And what we want to give here is inside skip I'll give the skip variable. So since we are making this await, what we would have to do here is we will give it async keyword, so this function will become async, so we can use await. And what we want is we want this result, transactions result, and for now I'll log this result, or maybe we don't even want to log it right now. If there is an issue I can log it. I'll just return the JSON response here. So response.json, and here I'm just going to give this key response, and inside this I'll give transactions result. Yes, so this is our code. Let's see if it will work or not. And just for like a fun assignment, I'm saying that this offset and limit is not going to work, and this month will also not work. So if you can figure out why this won't work, try to pause the video and see what can be wrong here or here for that matter. So I'll just run it first. So let me check if my server is up. So it is up on port 3000. Now if I go to port 3000/transactions, and here I get unable to connect, and this crashes for some reason. So $search had the wrong type, expected string found null. So one of the issue here is I haven't given the search query, so you should do that search query. So you should, here better solution would be you give a default search query as like empty string, and then if I try again, here we are getting some data. But if you like see it, one thing, if I check here, so I have given like no offset, no limit, and we are getting 3 response back here. That seems a bit weird, that why we are getting these 3 response. Maybe that is because in the month 3 we have 3 records, so that seems fine. And if I give it some query parameters like month equal to 1, now this works fine, and we are getting all the data. Also one more thing, if we give it a string, that doesn't work. So there can be some cases where the client is passing this as string and you get some kind of an error. So that has happened to me quite few times. So I guess the server crashed or something. So I'll just start it again. It is up now, and if I do this, we are getting some data. Now let me pass the page, and the page or offset is going to be 1, and the limit is going to be 2. So we are getting these 2 data points. So this is the Samsung one, and this is one more something. So now I just want to show that the pagination is working fine. So if I give this as a offset 2, that means next page, we are getting a different data that is on the second page, and so on. You can play with the limit, you can set it high. So since there weren't enough elements on page 2, so this must have been exhausted on page 1. So if I go to page 1 and check here, we only have 5 elements here. So if I do a limit of 3, then I can try 3 here we get, and then 2, and then if I do page 3, so all elements are exhausted here, since we have only 5 documents in that month. And one thing that I was saying is in like you should add some sort of a sanity check here for your offset, for your limit. That is necessary, because if you don't give a value here, they might be undefined, and if you are passing undefined here, since Mongo's client handles it pretty well, and it doesn't pass this as undefined or break somewhere. So what we can do here is we should do some sanity here. So that is parse it as int using the parse int function inside JavaScript, and give it a default value as well. And if I do here parse int and give a default value of 10, I think would be fine. So in case no one passes these parameters, I'm setting a default value here. And same, this sanity check of converting it into an integer is should be applied here. So parse int here and like this. So this is how we can do a full text search, and also we can do this thing. So full text search I haven't shown yet. So if I see in the month, and I'll just do this offset as 1 again. Okay, so I did some typo, I guess. Right. So inside this, we have this word called Samsung, and I don't think any other document has this. So now we can try that query is equal to Samsung. Now we are only getting this document that contains Samsung in title. So if it was in the description, it would have shown up. So what I can do here is I can say gaming, or I can say anything like that, monitor. So here full text search is working fine. So Mongo gives you a decent full text search that you can use here for this assignment. So that is all in this video, and in the next video we are going to cover the other parts. So other endpoints like of stats, these will be quite interesting since there is some aggregation sort of a stuff that you will have to do in MongoDB. So for now we have completed these. If you have any doubts, you can leave it in the comment section, and thanks for watching.